I was at Walmart the other day and I saw that goofy plant-based jerky that they were selling and more plant-based products. And I live in central Oklahoma, a state where the official state steak of the state is the ribeye steak, the king of steaks, where you will see cows in people's, if they have a larger yard in town, you will see cows or horses. This is cattle country, and they're trying to push plant-based meats here. I saw it here. I've seen it here in the freezer aisles at the stores with the fake meat replacement TV dinners. Things that you would not expect to see, where they call it chicken. They just take the E out and put an apostrophe. And then they try to sell it as a chicken pot pie. Strange stuff for where I'm at. If I was in Portland or San Francisco or Seattle or someplace like that, it wouldn't be surprising. But I saw it here in central Oklahoma. And what it brought to mind was about 10 or 11 years ago, at the very beginning of grad school for me, I had just finished my master's thesis and I defended it, and I was starting my PhD program in the fall. And so I decided to get an early start because I could transfer in a certain amount of credits, and I had a few credits available to do that with beyond what I was going to transfer from my master's program anyway. And so I decided to get a little bit of the coursework I needed for my PhD program done early. So I took a class called Green Economics. And I thought it would be, some of the economic considerations that, we have to consider when dealing with questions about the environment with modern industry and agricultural practices and other things. It's not really what the class was about. The teacher wrote a book where it was a love letter to Portland and its bike culture and things like that. And in that class, we had this interesting project. There was an option. There was some big project that I did not want to do, or there was an alternative where you could do a personal challenge and write it and write a paper on it. So I said, okay, why not? So here I'm going to tell you the story of how I spent an entire semester at my university living plant-based and what happened to me when I did that. I pitched the idea to the teacher that I would scale back the meat I was eating so that by the end of the first third of the semester, I was eating meat 1 day a week, which was one of the things that he was not so subtly advocating for. And he approved it and gave me some strict guidelines for how to do it properly. Now, at the time, I've struggled with my weight most of my life, and I told him my goal was, if that this would apparently help me to, lose body fat and get stronger, because this is what we were told, right? This is what the messaging said. And he agreed. He said, oh, yes, you will lose weight. You love to go to the gym. That's great. You're going to love to see the results you get. So I did it. And he gave me guidelines. And the guidelines were pretty sensible, broadly speaking. They were, minimize junk food, make sure you're eating clean foods. They're whole foods, not a lot of processed stuff. You're going to have to do your own cooking. He said, well, do you have you live on campus? Do you have a kitchen? Yes, I had access to a kitchen. And so we did this, and I documented everything, and I wish I had the documentation, but I remember the key things, because this stuff does not leave you once you go through this. So then, as now in life, I go to the gym 4 to 5 days a week, and I work out for an hour and a half or more at a time. Some people say that's too much. I enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy long workouts. I enjoy heavy weight training. Those are the things I do. And at the time, I hadn't been going to the gym consistently for very long, for only a couple of years at that point. I was still in the newbie gains area of things. But what I noticed was almost immediately, my strength gains first stalled out, and then they backtracked. I started bench pressing less weight, squatting less weight, deadlifting less weight. Some exercises weren't as noticeably affected, but everything I just listed were the heavy compound lifts, the king of lifts, that variations of you should always do if you're going to go to the gym, that there's never an excuse not to have a deadlift or a bench press or a squat in your routine if you're strength training, unless you've got an injury. That's the conventional wisdom that's broadly accepted in the weightlifting community, and I generally think it, for the most part, is right. I started backpedaling on those exercises, losing strength instead of gaining strength. I started having less energy. And I started gaining weight, and not good weight. I was not gaining muscle mass. If I was gaining muscle mass, those lifts wouldn't have gotten worse. I started gaining body fat. And again, I was following the protocol that was laid out. I was getting adequate protein. I was given the options of tofu, which I don't usually like. Some of the better quality meat substitutes, or beans and rice. And so I opted for beans and rice and some of the meat substitutes. And this was well before they were as common as they are now, by the way. And you go to any, like I said at the beginning, you go to any grocery store, there's tons of these options. There was no Beyond Meat in those days. And I wish there was no Beyond Meat now. This stuff is just grotesque. But I started suffering in the gym. I started putting on body fat. And I was already obese. I was combating the weight, the body fat that I was dealing with. And like a lot of people who get drawn into the plant-based, barely eating meat or full vegetarian or veganism. I did not go vegan, was not interested in being vegan, but, I was eating, like a lot of people, I was drawn in by the promise that it would help to optimize your physical health, help to optimize your metabolism, because this is how human beings are supposed to eat. It's how we were built to eat. That's what we're told. That's far from the truth. So the kinds of things I was eating, besides like what I already mentioned, in addition to that, being in Portland, Oregon, I had wonderful access to, at the local Fred Meyer, part of the Kroger family of grocery stores. The one in downtown Portland had, their produce section was mostly organic for a good price too. So I was eating a lot of squash. I was eating a lot of good quality nuts and those sorts of things, the kinds of things that on paper I was getting the protein I needed. I was using a protein powder that was a plant-based supplement instead of the one I was using for the most part. But I was also having whey protein as well. And that didn't help. And years later, I figured out why it didn't help, and so I don't use protein powders now. There's no reason to use a protein powder. After your workout, if you feel the need to eat after a workout, go have your steak. You're going to get the protein you need in a form easier for your body to handle than all that whey protein. But if you use whey protein and you have success with it, great, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. Keep doing what you're doing if that's what you want. No judgment for me on that. But the end result was, at the end of a semester, I gained 20 pounds. None of it good. No good weight was gained. I gained 20 pounds in the worst way possible. I was weaker. And I submitted my report, and I got an A on it. I followed his instructions, but he couldn't believe it. It was literally the opposite of what he was expecting. So bear all of that in mind when you tell people you're going to go carnivore, or maybe you're just a carnivore curious person who's keto and you're curious about carnivore and you're watching videos like this to get more information, but you're not necessarily sold on it, but you tell them you're going to go eliminate carbs and, simple carbohydrates. You're going to eat an animal-based diet of some kind. And the kind of reaction you get, or you've told them that in the past, and then you came back to them and said, hey, by the way, I've been doing keto or carnivore for a year, and I feel amazing. I've lost all this body fat. I'm stronger than I was before. I have more energy. And all, things that I was dealing with, X, Y, and Z, are all gone or much more manageable now than before. Just remember the story I told you, because at the end of the day, the food narrative that we are given by people who should know better is mostly bunk. And some of them know it is, but most of it is pushed by true believers, people who truly believe this stuff. And all the stories of former vegans out there should help you with that. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this in the comments, please. If you've got a question about it, I'll try to answer it here in the comments, or I can try to answer the question maybe in a future video on this stuff. But like and subscribe if you haven't. It really does help. And as always, go out and optimize your day today.